Welcome into this edition of the Huddle Up Podcast. I am your host, Taylor Sharp, and today I want to talk about the second-year quarterbacks in the NFL. Last year was a very impressive rookie quarterback class. Guys like Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, Michael Penix. J.J. McCarthy was set to be the starter and missed the season because of a knee injury. You had Caleb Williams. I mean, you name it, there were guys out there making plays early on in their NFL career. Looking at all of those guys, what they did last year as a rookie, what I think they're going to do in their second year. There is one quarterback that I think guys are maybe sleeping on a little bit who I think is primed to have an even better second year than he did as a rookie. And for me, that guy is Bo Nix. Now, you're going to say, well, how the hell is it not Jaden Daniels? Because Jaden Daniels had a breakout year last year. Jaden's going to be great. Jaden Daniels might be the best quarterback out of that draft class. I don't know how much more improvement he can make from year one to year two. Now, obviously, he's steadily going to get better, but the Washington Commanders made a run all the way to the NFC Championship last year. That's a tall task to ask him to do even more than that his second year. Now, the Denver Broncos do make the playoffs with Bo Nix year one. They're ousted in the first round, but I think everything around Bo Nix tells me he's going to have a big year. Look at what he did a year ago. This is a guy, 66% completion, 29 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, over 3,700 yards passing as a rookie. And he really didn't have a ton of weapons around him. I mean, he had Cortland Sutton, who's back again this year. That's your number one option. He was great, but Veely was a receiver for you. I mean, there were a ton of guys in and out. I mean, Troy Franklin, who was a late-round rookie, he was the guy that stepped up and kind of made plays for you. Adam Troutman was your starting tight end. I mean, there wasn't a ton of weapons outside of Cortland Sutton. Well, he's got weapons this year. You signed Evan Ingram in the offseason, who reports out of minicamp are he's going to play tight end. He's going to play a little bit in the slot. They're going to move Evan Ingram around a lot. I like Evan Ingram. I thought that he showed flashes in Jacksonville when they went to him a lot. He made plays. He was a really good tight end in New York and was productive in a Giants offense that otherwise was not productive. It was basically him and Saquon Barkley, and that was it, right? So you bring in Evan Ingram, but also you sign R.J. Harvey, which in my opinion is probably the biggest signing for this team as far as the draft and the offseason goes, and it's a guy that a lot of guys aren't talking about. He's a little undersized. He's about 5'9", hovers around, 195, 200 range. So a little bit undersized, but make no mistake about it, R.J. Harvey is a hell of a football player. As a running back at UCF last year, over 1,500 yards, 22 touchdowns on the ground. But the thing about R.J. Harvey that I like the most is he can catch the ball out of the backfield. We know Bo Nix loves to throw his check down routes to his running backs, to his tight ends. Both of those guys, Ingram and Harvey, are going to help with that. He's in a Sean Payton offense. You saw Sean Payton in his time in New Orleans feature the running backs in the passing game, feature the tight ends in the passing game. Bo Nix was great year one under Sean Payton. Year two, I think it's going to be even better. And you pair that offense with R.J. Harvey, Evan Ingram, Cortland Sutton, Bo Nix in year two, with the defense, who was one of the best defenses in the league, and then the additions they made this offseason and in the NFL draft. If I'm looking at it, preseason, it's probably the best defense in all of the NFL, at least in my opinion, heading into the preseason. That's kind of how I view this Denver Broncos team. So you're not going to have to ask him to do too much because he's going to be able to lean on that defense. He's going to have a good running game because, again, R.J. Harvey's back there. You also added J.K. Dobbins, who, when healthy, was still really productive with the L.A. Chargers last year. That's something a lot of people forget about because he was hurt down the stretch. But J.K. Dobbins, I think after weeks 5 or 6, he was like the leading rusher in the NFL for the first 5 or 6 weeks last year. And J.K. Dobbins can run the football. If he can stay healthy for you, he can be that vet. R.J. Harvey, kind of the explosive younger guy. You also still have Audric Estime in the backfield. So you have a good running game. If your O-line can stay healthy, they're going to be solid for you. An elite defense and more weapons on the outside to pair with Cortland Sutton, like an Evan Ingram, like an R.J. Harvey out of the backfield. I'm not saying that Bo Nix is in MVP discussions or anything like that, but I think if you look at the quarterbacks who could take the biggest jump year one to year two, it has to start with Bo Nix. I think that's your guy. Again, I just mentioned Jaden Daniels. Let's go look at all the other year two quarterbacks. Michael Penix Jr. has a chance. The only reason I didn't include him is because we haven't seen a ton of him, right? He hasn't been a full-time starter. Came in for Kirk Cousins last year, who was struggling about, we'll call it the halfway point of the season a year ago. Penix was good, but what's he going to look like in that offense as the full-time starter? We just don't know. I think he's talented. I think the pieces are there around him. Bijan Robinson's an excellent running back. I think he's got some receivers to play with, but we just don't know. J.J. McCarthy, this will be his first time taking an NFL snap. He got hurt in the first preseason game of the year last year, has not played in the regular season. Now, I think Kevin O'Connell is a QB whisperer. I think if anybody can get anything out of J.J. McCarthy, it's him. And they felt confident enough in J.J. to move off of Sam Darnold. If you remember last year, Sam Darnold was a godsend for that offense. He was efficient. He completed passes down the field. He led this team to the playoffs. They were a 3 seed in that playoffs just a year ago. That's a team that I think could do really well with J.J. McCarthy. But again, a lot like Michael Penix Jr., even more so, we haven't seen it. We have to see it before I can say that that is the guy that I am watching as the second-year quarterback. Now, the last one I'm going to look at is Caleb Williams. I am not high on Caleb Williams. I have never been high on Caleb Williams. I thought the Bears made a mistake picking him number 1 overall. I would have picked Jaden Daniels. Caleb Williams is talented. There's no question about it. But can he fix and tweak the things that he needs to do? He kind of degressed at USC. You go watch him at USC. He had the Heisman year the first year he was there. The last year he was there, he didn't quite have the weapons on the outside, right? He was trying to force things. He wasn't going through his progressions. He wasn't looking at his check down routes. He turned the ball over a lot. That does not translate well in the NFL. That is an awful trait to have as a quarterback. You saw the flashes last year, but there were a lot of things to work on. I think Caleb Williams is talented, but I think he's probably the rawest and needs the most improvement of any quarterbacks that I'm mentioning. Now, the last one is Drake May. I like Drake May as well. I think that Drake May, Bo Nix, those are the 2 guys that I'm watching. I went with Nix because I trust this head coach a little bit more as far as developing quarterbacks. But Drake May last year was not bad. You know, he got off to a so-and-so start, but he finished the season strong. And again, a lot like Bo Nix, that was an offense that didn't have a ton of weapons. Kayshon Boutte stepped up late in the season. You're going to have him back. He's a young receiver. You signed Stephon Diggs in the offseason. Now, Stephon Diggs is talented, but he's up there in age, and he's kind of had some locker room issues the last 2 places he's been. Kind of forced his way out of Buffalo. The relationship there between him and the staff and the players kind of got a little sour. Spends 1 year in Houston. You really thought that was going to be a good spot for him. That's why a lot of people had really high hopes for C.J. Stroud and the Texans last year. For whatever reason, it didn't work out. He gets the injury. He's out for the season. So he's over the age of 30. He hasn't been elite in 2 years or so, and he's coming off of a season-ending injury. How good is he going to be? My favorite addition that the Patriots made was actually in the backfield. It was not even a pass catcher. When they had Travion Henderson, who was one of my favorite, if not my favorite running back in the entire NFL draft. You pair him with a Ramondre Stevenson, you got your running game going. I just think the Bo Nix has a little bit more weapons on the outside, but I like Drake May as well. I could see Drake May being very successful. I think Mike Vrabel is a really good head coach. I think the adjustment, taking the year off as a head coach, moving into New England, I think it's going to be a seamless transition. He's a guy that played there for a number of years. He was a very successful coach in Tennessee. I bet Tennessee wishes they hadn't fired him now, right? They go from being the number 1 seed in the playoffs to not making it since they fired him. So I bet they're regretting that decision. Whether it's Bo Nix, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Penix, you name it. This was a really good quarterback class a year ago. We've talked all the time about, whether it's me, whether it's people on national shows, about how talented this quarterback class is, and I'm excited to watch these guys try to make that year 2 jump from that rookie to sophomore year. But I think Bo Nix, a guy to keep an eye on under Sean Payton with the weapons they added in the offense, being able to lean on the running game and that elite defense. I expect big things from the Broncos signal caller. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode of the Huddle Up Podcast. If you enjoyed, please like, subscribe, comment. Love to interact with listeners. And I'll see you next time right here on the Huddle Up Podcast.